Good morning. After Paul has told Timothy to preach the word, and he has told him to be aware that the coming context is going to be a time when people want their ears scratched and will be tempted to wander off into myths and all kinds of aimless things that take people away from true doctrine and the gospel and centering on the right things. He finishes this sort of the broader context of this charge in verse 5 by saying this, 2 Timothy 4:5, "As for you, always be sober-minded." Have your wits about you, is the idea. In the midst of chaos and confusion, in the midst of people wanting you to say something else, he's saying, don't lose your head here. Be sober-minded. Endure suffering. This actually is a word that brings together kakos and pathos. And these two words together, evil and suffering or evil passions or evil feelings. The idea here, and it says endure sufferings, the idea here is be in a posture where you are able to endure things that make you feel bad, things that don't elicit good feelings, things that are hard to endure. And so as one who's going to serve the Lord, you're going to have to be able to hold up under bad feelings. Hold up under, that includes feelings of rejection, that includes feelings of being despised, or it includes how you might feel when people persecute or oppress you in some way, or dole out difficulty to you. So he says, as for you, always be sober-minded. That's the first imperative. The second imperative is endure suffering. The third is do the work of an evangelist. That is, share the gospel, teach the gospel, proclaim the gospel, pass on the gift of the gospel. Do the work of an evangelist. And then the final imperative is fulfill your ministry. Fulfill your ministry. So the final idea is get the job done. I used to have a missionary that I knew who was an incredible guy. He had been imprisoned in the Philippines, and he had been taken captive, locked up, taken over the water to an island. The State Department got involved, and he ended up being freed. I knew him years and years and years later, and as an older man, but a man who had really sharp thinker and really understood ministry. He used to have a saying that I love and have adopted, and actually have encouraged our staff to adopt. It's kind of a plumb line for us at Lifeline, and that is, a job worth doing is worth getting done. Some people say a job worth doing is worth doing well. We want to do things well, but sometimes you just got to get it done. You got to get it out the door. You got to make sure that you complete the task. And this is what Paul's saying here. He's saying, look, Timothy, you've been called to preach the word, and it's going to be difficult, the context. So when it comes to you, what you need to focus on is keep your wits about you, be sober-minded. Endure suffering. Put up with things that make you feel bad and cause hardship and difficulty. Make sure you're sharing the gospel. Do the work of an evangelist, and then fulfill your ministry. Get the job of ministry done. That's his exhortation. So I think there's a lot we can take into our lives from that. I think we can take into our lives to not lose our heads. We can take into our lives to be willing to endure some difficulty and some things that make us feel bad. We can, and not to complain about that. We can take into our lives that we got to keep the gospel on our lips and in our life. And we can take into our lives that we need to get the job done. So think about those things as you go throughout your day to day, and may the Lord bless and encourage you.